What is your American dream?
I am in the process of continually reaching my dreams in terms of my career. And as we move forward, I think the biggest American dream that I could think of is everyone having the privilege to not have to justify their existence. Everyone should be able to do that. I think that would be the perfect American dream.
What I dream about is that someday peace will arrive in Afghanistan and in Logar, and that I hope that as much as possible, I'll be able to go back and live there and to perhaps study or teach there.
I mean, in a sense, I'm already living it. I have a great job that I love in academia. I have a great family. What you can make of yourself is obviously partly dependent on your own abilities and what you do, but it's as much or more dependent on whether there are barriers to opportunity. And if we break down those barriers for more people can live out more of their dreams. And in the process, they can benefit others as well as themselves.
Everyone has a right to the American dream. Welcome, everybody. My name is Brad Bernstein. It is March 1st, kind of jumping out of the winter. Hopefully spring is around the corner, but not yet, but close. It's starting to warm up here in New York. I hope it's warming up where you are. It's certainly warming up on Brad Show Live because I'm joined, as always, by Jonathan Yo-Yo Elias, Vanessa Nesquik Contreras, looking extra red today, Nesquik. How are you?
I know.
Looking extra
Feeling
red.
good.
Feeling good. Looking good.
am.
Looking good.
Thank you.
And
You gentlemen too.
And you are a handsome man too, Yo-Yo. Let me tell you.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
all
you.
in white
Thank
today. Very nice.
All in white.
Wow, forget it.
Trying to give off the spring vibes, you know, the bright spring vibes.
Yo-Yo's like, oh, come on, Brad. No, tell me more. Tell me more. Oh, come on, Brad. No, tell me more.
No.
Tell me. No, come on.
You know me too well, Brad. You know me too well.
How was your weekend, guys? How was everything?
Everything was good.
Yeah.
You know, just like I said, we are live, so I feel good.
We are alive and live, right? Both.
Yeah. We are live and live.
We are.
Yes.
On Brad Show Live.
That is right. Let's say hello to Squad, all right? Let's get into it. Dionne Watson, squad up. How are you? Lynn Brown, squad up. What's going on? Violet Blackwood saying squad up to everybody. Sasha Ford, squad up. Squatty. Dionne Watson, how are you? Jessica Levy, what's going on? Cordella, Willie L. Williams, Elizabeth Francis. It's Apple Pie saying squad up to everybody all the way from Jamaica. Carol Anderson, the Tiger. Chullips Brown, we see you watching. Violet Blackwood, squad up. Christine Parchment. Hi, Brad. Thank you for your good. My American dream is to help the unwanted children that need love. Very nice. I like that, Christine Parchment. I always liked Christine Parchment. I always felt a good vibe from her, and now she's telling me why. Right? We always liked Christine. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful American dream. Thank you, Christine. Ramona Jones, what's going on? Christy Consali, Lynn Brown. By the way, if anybody else has an American dream and wants to share it, by all means, I'm happy to tell what everybody's American dream is. As I see them popping up in the comments, I'm happy to talk about them. Elizabeth Francis, how are you? And we also, when we see people's American dreams, we get to learn a little more about them. Right? Isn't it nice to know a little more about our squaddies?
Absolutely. It's always good to learn about them.
Yes. Brian Peterson, squad up. How are you? Nikki T. Smith saying, hey. Aliu Mani, just as watching. Want to make sure that I'm not sure if Aliu is a man or a woman. Doesn't really matter. But Aliu wanted to make sure that we knew that he or she is watching. Jessica Kalimi, Joel Reed, squad up. Leedy Godaz, how are you? Babita Dianarine, Denise Johnson Green, And Marcia McCullough, I'm going to tell you, as we are growing, we're gonna have to start cutting out who we say. We can spend, soon we're going to be spending 1 hour saying hello to everybody. You realize that?
This is true.
Yeah. Kerry Ann Jarrett on YouTube with a question. We'll get back to you in a little bit. A beautiful woman by the name of Vanessa Contreras with a big capital SQUAD. Up. Derveen Gandhi with a question. We'll get back to you. Adam Monge, question. Frederick John, thank you for the program. Well, thank you, Frederick, for watching. Shivani Madigunta, also with a question. It's so funny, Yo-Yo and Vanessa, on Facebook. All right, everybody's just excited to say hello to everybody, know, and then they get into their questions. On YouTube, it's...
Get right down to business.
Right to business, right?
Right to it.
Right.
Yep.
We don't care about saying hello. Answer the question.
I mean, think about it, though.
Meat and potatoes.
We put it on Facebook first. So I think that the community, the Brad Squad, has created a bond on Facebook, So then when we got to YouTube, it was already such a big show. And everybody was like, okay, so this is why we come in here. A lot of people find the show through YouTube just going and researching about immigration. So, I mean, it's all love at the end of the day. They're still a squad member, but they get down to business on YouTube.
I'm going to tell you something. That was said so diplomatically and professionally, Yo-Yo. All right. I mean, I know that is right off the top of your head, but you nailed that. You nailed that explanation. And I'm like, yes, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I'm here like, that sounds right.
And it is right because, we were on Facebook Live a lot earlier than we were on YouTube. And when we were on Facebook Live, we had a smaller audience, so we were able to bond with them more. So Yo-Yo happens to be right. All right, Vanessa, you talk to your YouTube people. Yo-Yo, you talk to your Facebook people, and then you'll come back to me. How's that?
Absolutely. All right, squad, you already heard that right there. Actually, I'm going to talk to everybody. All right, everybody because I need everybody to share. Like we said, we are all a family. It's all a community, regardless if you're coming in to say what's up to your squad members or coming in and getting answers right away, all right? Because I need you guys all to share so everyone can get an equal chance to finding out what they need to know about their immigration issues, all right? Also, we're about to start schmoozing real soon with Brad. He's going to talk about the latest in President Biden's work toward immigration law reform.
And it's Fuzzy Monday, so get ready for some warm and funny animal stories to get our week started.
And of course, there is a telephone number. I'm going to point to it in case anyone doesn't see it. It's right there, and it's also scrolling down. You also may have seen Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in blue with my head on him with a sign that says, "Ask me a question." My head, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, ask me a question. And you call that same number, 1-800-529-5465. It is also the telephone number to call to schedule a consultation with me. And later in the show, in honor of the first day of Women's History Month, we will hear my interview with Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, the Detroit pediatrician, who helped expose the Flint, Michigan water lead poisoning crisis and cover up. But right now, Yo-Yo and Vanessa, we got to do some schmoozing.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, Vanessa, you know the answer to this question. You know what March 1st is?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Women's, the start of
Women's Month.
Right,
yeah,
Women's
History Month.
That's right. It officially, so happy first day of March, Brad Squad. Happy Women's History Month. It officially began in 1981 when Congress authorized and requested President Ronald Reagan to proclaim the week beginning March 7th, 1982 as Women's History Week. Throughout the next 5 years, Congress continued to pass joint resolutions designating a week in March as Women's History Week. Now, after being petitioned by the National Women's History Project, Congress designated the month of March 1987. The entire month is Women's History Month. Between 88 and 94, Congress passed additional resolutions requesting and authorizing the president to proclaim March of every year as Women's History Month. Since 1995, presidents have issued a series of annual proclamations. Now, these are good proclamations, not like those proclamations from that pumpkin in the White House, who we still can't get him goddamn out of the freaking news. I'm tired. You all right? Yesterday, it was all pumpkin, pumpkin, pumpkin.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know what I said today? We ain't going to talk about him. But, of course, still in my head. All right? He was making those terrible proclamations, but in a series of very nice proclamations, really what proclamations should be for. Every president since 1995 has designated the month of March as Women's History Month. Now, these proclamations celebrate the contributions women have made to the United States and recognize the specific achievements women have made over the course of American history in a variety of fields. Now, besides International Women's Day, March holds a few milestones for women's history. Title IX, which prohibits sex discrimination in all federally funded education programs, was passed by the Senate in March 1st, 1972, and it became a law later that year. The Equal Rights Amendment, which is a constitutional amendment which guarantees rights regardless of sex, beyond those assured by the 19th Amendment, passed the Senate also on March 22nd, 1972, although the Equal Rights Amendment, although passed, has never been ratified as part of our bill, as part of an amendment to the Constitution. We're still waiting for that to happen. Now, earlier in the 20th century, two significant women's suffrage events took place in March. The first major suffragist parade took over Washington, D.C. on March 3rd, 1913, and the National Woman's Party, a political group dedicated to women's suffrage meaning the right to vote, was officially formed in March of 1917. So March holds a lot of significance as it pertains to women, just as, February held a lot of significance for Black History Month, Yo-Yo.
Very true.
Yes.
Very true.
Now, did you guys check out the Golden Globes last night? I know, Yo-Yo, I'm sure you watched.
You already know I'm always glued for award shows and all of that.
You're like Mr. Pop Culture. Did you watch Vanessa?
Uh-oh, I think she's frozen.
Vanessa was so enthralled by the Golden Globes that she was. What? Did you watch Vanessa the Golden Globes?
Yeah, I think she
still frozen.
No, I didn't.
You did not watch it. Well, let me tell you what you missed. All right. There were a lot of historic firsts for women last night. Chloe Zhao became the first ever female Asian director to win the Golden Globe for Best Director, and only the second woman ever to win Best Director for her film Nomadland. A historic number of women were nominated for Best Director, including Chloe Zhao, Regina King for One Night in Miami, and Emerald Fennell for Promising Young Women. Now, Andra Day made history also, becoming the second Black woman ever to win the Best Actress in a Motion Picture Drama for her portrayal, which was also her acting debut of music legend Billie Holiday in the United States versus Billie Holiday. Now, two women, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, hosted the event and were quick to criticize the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. They're in charge of putting out the Golden Globe Awards because the Hollywood Foreign Press Association has experienced backlash because of a lack of racial diversity. There is not a single Black member in the institution, apparently. Now, a moving moment came when Chadwick Boseman posthumously won for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom in Best Actor in a Drama. His widow, Taylor Simone Ledward. Did I pronounce the widow's name right, Yo-Yo? Ledward?
I believe so.
Yeah, okay. Gave a tearful speech on his behalf. She said he would thank God, he would thank his parents, he would thank his ancestors for their guidance and their sacrifice. But
yeah, that was deep.
Yeah,
that acceptance speech was deep.
Yeah, you felt that one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was tuning in and out, so I missed that part.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I saw that one, and especially knowing what she did and what she went through while
Right.
Chadwick was alive, to find out that she was at every single shoot that he was at. She was massaging his feet. She was walking him to his trailer. She basically was by his side, throughout all of that. And to be able to accept this, on behalf of him after he passed, I can't even explain how much I'm sure, it was happiness, but also sadness. And I think everybody felt that as well.
Now, the three
She looks
things.
stunning. I'm gonna have to watch this back.
Yeah,
She looks stunning.
Now, the three things
she
that
does.
were on everybody's mind on at least Twitterverse or Twitter universe was, and I saw two of the three.
Okay.
Okay. The one I didn't see, Jason Sudeikis. They claim Twitter universe was saying he was high on drugs. He was in a sweatshirt. He accepted his award in a sweatshirt and a hoodie. He seemed high on drugs, didn't know what the heck he was talking about. Everybody was convinced he was high. I don't know. I
Yes.
missed that part.
Okay.
Al Pacino falling asleep in front of his Zoom computer. I saw that. But I get Al Pacino. I mean, he's an elderly man, and he's
Right.
he's tired. His eyes are focused on the screen. He could fall asleep.
It's
That's what happens.
hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
And of course, all of the technical glitches. I'm going to tell you something. I don't wish technical glitches on anybody, but I was happy to see that we are not the only show that NBC, a huge, company.
Network.
Okay. With all of those technical glitches, I got a text message from Julian the TriCaster guy last night. And Julian the TriCaster guy says to me, he goes, "We don't have anywhere near the technical glitches that the Golden Globes Awards had." And he goes, and they got a staff of God knows how many. He goes, "All you got is Julian the TriCaster guy."
There you go.
And so I got a text message from him. He goes, after these Golden Globes, maybe I should get a raise.
Listen, I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, I opened my mouth, right? I opened my mouth. Julian's
Exactly.
Yeah.
gonna start shaking his head. Yes, right?
I'm the full squad up.
Yes. So
Where's the ding ding?
yeah, I don't know. Maybe Julian's pulling an Al Pacino and fell asleep. I thought maybe Julian was pulling an Al Pacino and fell asleep for a second.
I was about to say the same thing.
Because I saw this because right at the top of the show, Daniel Kaluuya's
Yes.
audio completely cut out before he could accept his award for Best Supporting Actor in a Drama. You guys know nothing about the audio just cutting out on a live, video
Right.
cast.
No experience.
You have no experience about that whatsoever, right?
Please.
So when people say, "Hey, Bradshaw Live, what the heck's going on over there?" Like, what the heck?
Golden Globes.
Like, what the heck? I can't hear Vanessa. I can't hear Yo-Yo. I'm just going to say, hello. Go watch the Golden Globes and then give us a call back, right?
There you go.
Because we get it right at least almost 95% of the time, 98% of the time.
I'll give you that.
Right. Also, Catherine O'Hara won for Schitt's Creek, and her husband attempted a comedy bit in which he played audio of play-off music from his cell phone, which totally distracted from her speech. So that wasn't that particularly funny. All right. So that was the Golden Globes. Meanwhile, in immigration news, lawyers working to reunite immigrant parents and children separated by the Trump administration reported Wednesday that they have found the parents of 105 children in the last month. Shocking that they found 105 parents the first month that Biden becomes president. When Trump was president, he claimed he was trying to find parents, couldn't find anybody. Shocking, right?
Right.
Now, the pro bono lawyers and advocates working on reunification said it had yet to find the parents of an additional 506 children, but it is down from 611 children who don't have parents. It's now down to 506 just as of January 14th in a 6-week period. The lawyers said the parents of about 322 of the 506 children believed to have been deported are making it more difficult to find them. The lawyers are not required by the judge to say how many of the parents and children have been reunited, but the Biden administration recently formed a task force placing the responsibility of finding and reuniting families separated by the Trump administration, primarily under in the hands of the federal government. I think it should be in the hands of Jared and Ivanka Kushner, and they should go at their own expense and start traveling around Central America looking for these. Instead,
Absolutely.
I saw them on a video clip taking a jog in Miami, all happy. They should be the first ones down there in Central America looking for these parents.
Wait,
Now,
so they actually deported a lot of the parents?
Correct.
I didn't know that they actually deported the parents before giving them their children back.
Correct. They separated.
What?
They separated. Yes. They separated parents from children, and they charged. And the reason they did this is because they were charging the parents with illegal entry into America. They couldn't charge the children with illegal entry. So the parents got separated from the children because the parents got sent to criminal jail while the children remained in federal immigration detention. That's how the separation happened. And then in lieu of telling the parents you can go to criminal court and you're going to go to criminal jail for months and months and months and then get deported, or you can just agree to get deported now, most agreed just to get deported rather than sit in jail and then get deported. And then they all got sent back to Central America while their children remained in federal detention here.
And the crazy thing is there could have been even though it still doesn't justify or say that they should have done this, but there could have been an easy way to make sure they, put down on paper or in the system whose parents to what child and where that child is. There is an easy way, even though, like I said, they shouldn't have separated them in the first place. But if they really wanted to make sure they knew where the parents were and where the child was, they could have done that from the beginning. So these lawyers wouldn't have to even go out and do this type of work.
Well, first of all, they could care less. All right.
They could care less.
They showed absolutely they didn't care at all. Number one. And number two, you should never be separating the trauma that these children have to now go through no fault of their own. Okay, they didn't choose it. They didn't choose this trauma. Okay, they didn't choose it. They didn't choose to come to America. They didn't choose to stay in jail. Okay, now you can say, well, it's the parents' fault. Well, okay, if you want to blame the parents, fine. But it's still not fair to do what you did to a child, no matter whose fault it is. All right, two wrongs don't make a right. I mean, if you're going to make that argument, because it's a dumb argument, we got to be better as American society. And the reason they separated them was to try to force future people who were coming from Central America not to come, saying, wow, if you come with your kids, you're going to be separated and you're going to lose your child. So it was a punishment but really the punishment ultimately was put on an innocent child. Yeah. Because those children are never going to, even when they get reunited with their family, they're never going to be the same. Traumatized.
Absolutely.
Now, one thing that backfired on Donald Trump is that today the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said that the Biden administration, when reuniting these migrant families separated by the Trump administration, they're going to allow all the separated families to enter the United States from their country of origin, even if they were previously ordered deported. Mayorkas called the separation of thousands of migrant families under the Trump administration the most powerful and heartbreaking example of the cruelty that preceded this administration. So in the end, Trump wanted these people who he deported not to ever come back to the United States. But in the end, although very sad what they had to go through, they have the last laugh because they get reunited with their children and get to be in America.
Man.
Meanwhile, on Wednesday, I got a lot of text messages on this on my Instagram account. On Wednesday, President Biden revoked a proclamation that Donald Trump made, and that blocked many green card applicants from entering the United States. Trump issued the ban last year, saying it was needed to protect U.S. workers. In essence, unless you were an immediate relative, you were barred from getting a green card at a U.S. embassy in another country. So unmarried, children of permanent residents, children under the age of 21 of permanent residents, spouses of permanent residents, unmarried children over the age of 21 of a U.S. citizen, married children of U.S. citizens, brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens, anybody sponsored in an employment-based case, all prevented from getting the green cards. 1 year of none of those applications being processed. That proclamation was set to end on March 31st. Biden lifted it approximately 4.5 to 5 weeks earlier than it was set to expire. It now sets up for all 1 year of a backlogged group of people to start to get their immigrant visa appointments. The problem is this. The problem is we're still in COVID. Okay, so the embassies are short-staffed, less people working there. They're working in separated environments, and you have a situation where there's probably somewhere in the vicinity, I've never seen the statistic, but my guess would be somewhere in the vicinity of 350 to 400,000 green card applications that should have been processed for an interview that have not been processed. Now, all of the U.S. embassies have to set up interviews for approximately 350 to 400,000 people that should have already had their interviews, on top of all the interviews that they got to do moving forward. Which means there's going to be a huge backlog for some time, unless Biden adds a lot of staff to try to reduce this backlog. I don't know how they're going to do it. So even though family reunification is going to start, it's going to be a very long process before this whole backlog gets tackled. Mm-hmm. And finally, the first migrant facility for children has opened in Texas under the Biden administration. The facility is a former oil field worker camp, and the emergency facility is left over from the Trump administration. It was only open for a month in the summer of 2019 and is being reactivated to hold up to 700 children ages 13 to 17 years of age. So that's what's going on in... oh, you know what? Did you see that the House passed the COVID relief bill?
Oh, no.
Yes, $1,400 checks. It passed this weekend. Not one Republican voted for it. To $1,400 checks to every American who earns under $75,000. And then as you earn over $75,000, that $1,400 check gets reduced. I think it gets phased out at $150,000, but don't quote me on that, but somewhere in that vicinity.
Oh, wow.
They also added a provision for a $15 minimum wage, but that's going to be stripped out. Biden wants this thing passed by another week. So we're waiting for the Senate to pass it. The Senate can pass it if all Democrats vote in favor of it. There could be some conservative Democrats that have a problem with it. We will see. The other thing is, there's three huge bills that Biden wants passed. The COVID relief, which is $1.9 trillion. It's bigger than the budgets of many countries. Okay. He wants an expansion of Obamacare that he's going to call Biden Care. And he wants immigration reform. Now, the immigration reform is going to heat up towards the end of March. And the reason it's going to heat up towards the end of March is because if the House can vote on bills before the end of March because of some rule in the House of Representatives, these bills don't have to be debated in a committee, which would expedite the immigration bill process. So get a full vote up by the House without having to go to these subcommittees and have testimony and discussion and blah, 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 and BS. Everybody knows what the deal is with immigration, okay? Right. It has been debated till the cows come home for the last 40 years, okay? So everybody knows what the deal is. We don't need any more discussion. We don't need any more committee meetings. So the Democrats are trying to get something out from the House of Representatives by the end of March. Thing is this, the Democrats have the House of Representatives, the Senate, and they have the president. but they have a razor-thin majority in the House by five votes. They have 5 votes over the Republicans in the House of Representatives. They have 1 vote in the Senate. I mean, that's razor thin. And not every person, not every Democrat is on board with everything that is being said or being written about in Biden's bill and some of the other bills that are floating through. There's other bills that some Republicans may be in favor of. So it looks like what is going to happen, even though Biden gave this whole U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, it looks like it's going to be split up into little different laws to pass incrementally. And things that can pass easily, most people believe the DREAM Act will pass easily. A majority of people believe that the amnesty for agricultural workers will pass. Most people believe that most of the employment-based reforms that Biden put in the U.S. Citizenship Act will pass. The harder things will be getting rid of the provisional waiver and the 3 and 10 year bar, making immediate relatives of permanent residents, adding additional green cards to family-based petitions, and of course the big one, the general amnesty for anybody who was here on January 1st, 2021, and the general amnesty for anybody from a TPS country. That doesn't mean it won't pass. That means that for those other things to pass, Biden is going to have to flex muscle, where he wouldn't have to necessarily flex as much muscle for the Dreamers and for the agricultural workers and for the employment-based, because the Republicans are in favor of employment-based immigration. And there are Republicans who are Trump supporters. Lindsey Graham in favor of the DREAM Act. And a lot of the agricultural workers come from states that are Republican. And they will get a lot of pressure from their constituents, the farmers, to help their workers. So I believe that you're going to get more of a consensus on amnesty for agricultural workers, DREAM Act, employment-based reform. You're going to see it's going to be harder for family-based reform, TPS amnesty, and the general amnesty. And the way that it looks like it's going to go down right now is in the short term, they're going to pass the things that are more likely to have more support on both sides of the aisle and by Congress that will make it easier. And the harder ones, Biden is going to have to come down and put some muscle behind it. And when you put muscle behind it, what that means is you got to make promises to other congressmen to get them to agree to what you want. I don't know what those promises are, okay? But there's going to have to be promises. You know, politics is the art of compromise. Now, Biden has made this a centerpiece of his administration. He says he wants this done. Now, he can use, you can only make so many different compromises. You know, let's say, for example, I'm making this up, I don't know. You know, some congressman or senator says, well, where I come from, I'm using my southern accent, where I come from, but I'm not good at the accents. Where I come from, we need drilling. We need to open up some land. We need a pipe to go from here to here. I'll give you your TPS amnesty, you give me your pipe. But Biden may say, well, I want Obamacare. Well, I'm not going to give you Obamacare and TPS amnesty for a pipe. You've got to decide which one it's going to be. So, hopefully Biden makes, at least from our perspective here at Bradshaw Live, Biden makes his, because that's what it's going to be. Is it the priority immigration reform, or is he going to make some other priority that he's going to make his compromises with? We'll see. Right now, he's making immigration his priority publicly. We'll see if, after they pass the easy parts, what is he willing to trade to get the other parts passed? That's what it's going to come down to.
Right.
And then, because you can only have so much trading capital, you know, all right? Because if you can, you know, you put all your chips in on Obamacare, you don't have any more chips for immigration, or you put in all your chips for something else, you don't have the chips for something else.
Right. There's only so much compromise.
Correct. So we'll see. That's what it's going to come down to. What?
It's very strategic. Like, you have to really be, you know, strategic with that. I never even thought about that.
Yeah. Politics, they say it's the art of compromise. Now, Donald Trump didn't know any compromise. Okay, he's a good. I mean, I'm telling you the truth.
His highway or the highway.
Yeah. I mean, so when you say, is he a good politician? I would argue he's not, because he didn't really get anything done as president of the United States to further American interests. What he did, you know, and he didn't compromise. He didn't use his political capital to, other than tax reform. If you say, well, he did this tax reform, okay, he cut people's taxes. My taxes didn't go down, but he cut some people's taxes. You know, real estate people and, you know, hedge fund guys, those taxes went down. If you lived in Republican states, those taxes went down. My taxes went up under Trump. But but so if you say, okay, well, he did that, okay, fine. If you benefited from that tax cut, great, congratulations. But for the most part, he didn't do anything. You know, what he did was he held on to power by scaring the hell out of everybody. You know, but as a politician, as an authoritarian figure, he was fantastic.
Really?
But one of the best authoritarian figures America's ever seen, if you're into authoritarian figures. Right? But as a politician, what did he do? Nothing. Right? What did he do to make anyone's life better here? Made it worse.
Absolutely.
Right. He didn't compromise on anything. He didn't try to make legislation to make America better, as much as he said. All right.
Enough about him.
Enough about that guy. You know what it is? Let's get a little happy here and do some Fuzzy Monday stuff. And then we're going to get into our immigration questions, our meat and potatoes. But right now, I like to talk a little animal. You want to talk a little animal?
Let's do it.
All right. So let's in Australia, a koala hopped behind the wheel of a car, causing a huge pileup. Only in Australia this would happen. It caused a 6-car crash when the koala dashed across one of Australia's busiest freeways on Monday. A man whose car was hit from behind at around 7 a.m., causing a chain reaction, was the first to get out of his car to try and save the cuddly creature. Another driver, Nadia Tugwell, told ABC's Radio Adelaide she later saw the koala moving between vehicles on the freeway not far from the pileup. She said, "Then I saw a lady running after it with a blanket trying to catch it." The two women managed to corner the koala and bundled it up in a jacket before putting it in the back of Tugwell's car. While she waited for rescuers to arrive, the cuddly creature got comfortable in the car and even hopped behind the steering wheel, the photos show. So that's how the koala got behind the wheel of the car. I thought the koala was actually driving the car.
Me too.
I'm like, wait a second, is that koala driving the car? But koalas are cute. But they're supposedly very dangerous. I don't know if I would want to grab a koala with a blanket. That, you know, they can go, and scratch you.
I was literally about to say that it looks really cute, but it also looks like it could be dangerous, like with the claws and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I've never seen one fuzzy. I've never seen one up front, but I don't know if I would go grab it with a blanket. Meanwhile, scientists have successfully cloned a wild black-footed ferret that died more than 30 years ago. This is Frankenstein ferret. Okay? This ferret died, but now has been cloned. The young clone, it's not a Frankenstein. It's just a clone.
Oh, it's a clone.
It's a clone. This is more like a Terminator ferret. Right. This is not a Frankenstein ferret. This is a Terminator ferret. Right. They cloned him.
Yeah, that would be kind of crazy.
Yeah, like imagine like the dead ferret goes back and is like, like Frankenstein. So the young clone, born December 10th, 2020, and named Elizabeth Ann, is the first ever native endangered species to be cloned. That's why they did it, because it's an endangered species. So to bring back the species. Now, once thought to be extinct, black-footed ferrets are one of North America's rarest land animals, clinging to existence through captive breeding and reintroduction programs. There's only about 400 left in the world.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and talking about bears being dangerous. A woman was in an outhouse in a remote area of Alaska when a bear came barreling into the outhouse while she was on the toilet and bit her on the butt. Yep.
What?
Yep. A woman who used, I don't know if this is Fuzzy Monday. This is Hump Day Wednesday. This could also be Wacky World News Thursday.
Right.
But a woman who used the
all
toilet,
in one.
all in one. A woman who used a toilet in an outhouse in remote Alaska got quite the surprise after a bear nipped her in the butt. Shannon Stevens said she, her brother, and his girlfriend rode snowmobiles to his yurt, which I guess is a hut, about 20 miles northwest of Haines, Alaska, when Shannon needed to use the outhouse. Shannon said, I got out there and sat down on the toilet and immediately something bit my butt. I jumped up, I screamed when it happened. They first thought she'd been bitten by a small animal or a squirrel, but when he opened up the toilet seat, there was a bear staring right at her. You know what? If I'm hanging out in the outhouse of a toilet anywhere and somebody opens up the toilet and sits on it and starts to go to the bear, I'm going to bite that butt too. I mean, anybody's going to bite, you know? And
Right.
You know, and by the way, you got to look when you're in an outhouse, what's down there before you sit down, right? Would you?
So was the bear was just in the outhouse?
The bear was in the toilet of the outhouse, hanging out.
Ew.
Yeah. Uh-huh. This bear's like, lady, you got to be kidding me. You're going to do that on me now?
Could you imagine?
That's what happened.
Wow.
You're like, you know that bear
Talk
looking
about
up.
right place, right time.
That bear looking up, lady. You better not be doing what I think you're about to be doing. I'm gonna bite you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, can't be mad at the bear.
No, I can't be mad at the bear either. The woman ran out of the house. She said she was bleeding, but it wasn't super bad. The sister and brother discovered bear tracks surrounding the property the next morning. No sign of the bear. I can't blame the bear. The bear's like, I'm not coming back to this place. It's crazy.
Right.
People are going to the bathroom on my head. All right.
How the hell did you just get there and like get out?
I don't know. All right, that's our Fuzzy Monday, guys. We got to get to our Braducation. In today's Braducation, I answer the question, how do I remove the conditions on my permanent residence? Let's watch. You know, people always ask me, Brad, how do I remove the conditions of my permanent residence? I got a 2-year green card. I got to file this application 90 days before the expiration of my 2-year period. Well, there's 4 ways to do it. Number 1, you can file an application jointly with your spouse to remove the conditions, get your permanent green card. All you got to do is prove that you still live with your spouse and you have a financial relationship. Basically, you guys are still Romeo and Juliet. You're in love with each other. The second way to do it is you get a divorce from your spouse. You say it was a real marriage back in the day. It's not anymore. We couldn't get along. I can prove it was real in the past. I am now divorced. You do it on your own. The third way is, again, you do it on your own, but you don't do it with a divorce. You prove that you were abused and that's why you don't live with your spouse. The fourth way to do it is show that there's some sort of hardship, extreme hardship, if you have to return home, and you can also prove it was a real marriage. All right, let's go to our meat and potatoes. You ready, guys? I'm going to answer your immigration questions. Wow, lines are already locked and loaded, Yo-Yo and Vanessa. Let's start with Lily in Glendale, California. Lily, how are you? Hi, Lily. Lily, you've been waiting 40 minutes to speak to me. Now's your moment in the sun. Lily. Poor Lily, waited all this time. What happened to you? All right, someone get Lily. Let's go to AYODEJI in York, Pennsylvania. AYODEJI.
Hi, Brad.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you so much. You're doing a good job. You're keeping us off panic. My question is so simple. I have a flower application file. My 485765 were filed alongside. I did a fingerprinting as of December 4, 2020. Until date, I don't have a work permit. What do I do?
When did you file the actual adjustment?
That was about 7/23/2020.
Did you get an RFE for anything wrong with your case?
There was no extra request from USCIS.
I don't know why you don't have your work permit. 7 months, it seems like an excessive amount of time. You should have gotten it already. Have you called up the 1-800 number?
Yeah, I called the 1-800 number. They made me understand I should write a personal letter requesting about my...
All right, no. So what I want you... Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't sent out and you didn't get it. What you need to do now is request a humanitarian expedite, because your application, you're a VAWA recipient, you're an abused spouse, you're unable to work, you're unable to support yourself, you've filed an application for a work permit since July, whatever other humanitarian reasons you can come up with on why this work permit now needs to be issued to you. You have every right to do that and request an expedite request at this point. That would be your next move.
Can I bypass my attorney, please?
Your attorney can do it. You can do it. You can hire another attorney to do it, but somebody's got to do it.
Okay. I'll do it myself. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the good job.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Let's go to Timothy in Baltimore, Maryland. Timothy. Timothy. Timothy.
Hello.
Hi, Timothy. How are you?
Yeah, good. How are you doing?
Good.
Good evening.
How I been? I've been okay. How you been?
I'm okay.
Okay, good.
I have a question.
Okay.
I have a question. Can someone with 2 years green card give an affidavit of support?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yes. The law says you just have to be a lawful resident of the United States, conditional resident, U.S. citizen. Perfectly fine.
Okay, so for example, my wife, she earned 22,000, but she have a dependent. She used one of her sister as a dependent.
I don't know what your wife is doing. Who's your wife filing for? Her mother, father?
I mean, her tax. I'm talking about her tax return. She got 22,000.
I'm asking a question. Who's filing for who? Who needs an affidavit of support?
Okay, she is filing for me.
Okay, so that's fine. And so now you have a friend or family member who's a conditional resident that wants to give a second affidavit of support.
Yes.
That's perfectly fine. If your wife earns $22,000, that's kind of on the low side. You should have that second affidavit.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, good luck. Let's go to Sharam in Long Island. Sharam.
Hey, Brad.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. Thank you very much. I don't want to take other people's time. I have 3 questions, if you can respond me, please.
Okay.
Number 1 is, my immigration court is pending. I don't know when will be the date because of COVID, all these things. Will I be benefited from this amnesty?
I assume so, yes, if it passes.
Okay, how?
How? I don't know anything about you. Well, maybe you're an agricultural worker. Maybe you're under the DREAM Act. Maybe you're TPS. Maybe you just were here out of status on January 1st, 2021. I have no idea.
Okay, no, I had my work permit and everything for the past 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
I filed asylum.
Is this yes? As under the current iteration, and let me sprinkle some dust over this. The current iteration is not going to be the law. So it's going to change a lot. Under the current iteration, if it passed as is right now, people who have pending asylum would qualify.
Will qualify?
Yes. I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Okay. So people with pending asylum can get the LPS, right? Lawful Perspective Status?
As it is written at the moment. But as I said, as it's written at the moment and as it passes is 2 different things.
Okay. And my other question is, for example, my court is pending. Can my friend sponsor me to change my status?
There's no such thing as friend sponsorship.
No, right?
No
And
friend
can my
sponsorship.
employer sponsor me?
Probably not, because you're not going to be eligible to adjust your status here, most likely. And if you go home, you've claimed asylum, and now why are you home all of a sudden to pick up a green card?
Oh, I see.
Right.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly in Stamford.
Hi, Brad.
Hi, Kelly. How are you?
How are you?
Good. What's going on? Good. What's going on?
I have something to tell you, and then I have something to ask you.
All right. Tell me first.
I entered the U.S. in 2007.
Right.
I get married in 2012 to a green card holder.
Right.
Unfortunately, it didn't work. We have a child together.
Okay.
And then I ended up getting divorced. She didn't want to get divorced. I get divorced in 2019, and since then I'm out of status. So I'm trying to figure out like what could I do, because
fall in
I'm
love
working...
again. That's the number one. Fall in love again. I mean, right now, you being out of status, most likely, not saying it's the only thing, but most likely scenario would be fall in love again.
That's the only way right now.
I'm not saying it's the only way. I'm saying the most straightforward way. That doesn't mean do a business marriage. It doesn't mean do a fake marriage. But in other words, if you call me and say, I overstayed my visa, I was married to a resident, I'm now divorced, what should I do? Well, you got to find another way. So what's the fastest way is fall in love. Easier said than done. Are there other ways? I don't know. We would have to have a consultation.
Okay.
All right. Hold on. Let's go to Ali in New York, New York. Ali.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good.
All right. Actually, I get arrested in 2018 when my I-130 was pending. So I get arrested because of my wife. She's gonna be crazy, but
you got arrested.
Actually,
you got arrested for domestic violence.
Yes.
And your wife filed an adjustment for you.
Yes.
Okay. Whether you believe she's crazy or not, that's an arrest for domestic violence. What happened with the case?
The case was dismissed because she came to the court and she said nothing never happened. Nothing never happened.
So then she filed a false. She admitted she filed a false report. She could have been arrested herself.
What was that?
I said if she comes to court and says nothing happened, I was lying, then she herself committed a crime by filing a false report. She's lucky if that's how it went down. She's lucky she didn't get arrested.
Yes, because even the judge tell her at the criminal court that, do you know you incriminated yourself right now?
Right. Okay. So what? All right. So now what's?
Okay. My question.
What's the question?
My question is My question is my last court by the immigration, because I was put in the removal process also. So my question is okay, if because right now I don't live with her because she has epilepsy and every time is crazy. So I just but we still married, my question is if she doesn't come with me, because the I-130 is approved. If she doesn't come, because the judge told me to come with her at my court, because my lawyer. You
need to be able to show that you're in a bona fide marriage all the way through the time you get your green card. So if she's not coming and you're living apart, that's evidence that this is no longer a bona fide marriage. So now you have a problem. So either it's going to be one of two. You guys reconcile, and you're allowed to have a fight and reconcile. It doesn't mean it's not a bona fide marriage. Or you're going to say, my wife is so crazy, and I'm not saying she is. I'm just I'm using your words. My wife is so crazy that I believe I'm emotionally abused, extreme emotional abuse, physical abuse. I don't know what happened in the marriage. That would be your other option in terms of using this marriage to get a green card.
Okay. So I think I will need a consultation.
I think so too. Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
Yeah.
Linda in San Antonio, Texas. Linda in San Antonio, Texas. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hi, Brian.
What's going on?
Yeah, I called earlier this morning asking the receptionist that I need a lawyer in San Antonio, Texas.
Right.
Because my case, my I-130 that my husband filed for me was denied.
Okay.
And my I-1485 was also denied.
Okay.
So we're still waiting for the denied letter to arrive.
Okay.
And we need a lawyer.
I'm sorry? Linda?
I'm right here.
Yeah,
Hello?
okay. Yeah, hi. All right, so you called my office earlier. I assume you were going to make a consultation with me, but you want to get in on early on the consultation? You called my show? What are you calling for at this moment? Linda?
Yes, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
I do. No, I don't hear you. Tell me what you're calling for today. You want my help with your denied adjustment?
Yeah, I was denied the adjustment.
I understand that. Do you want my help with it?
Yeah, I need help.
Okay.
Because I don't think my lawyer is capable to carry on. I don't know.
Why was it denied?
We haven't received the letter yet to know why it was denied. But I just I need the lawyer in case we receive the letter and stuff. I just need the lawyer.
Then you're talking to the right guy, but you're talking to him on the show. You got to talk to the secretary and make a consultation with me. So hold on one second. Let's go to Mary in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, hello.
How are you, Mary?
I'm doing good. Brad, I have a question. I'm married to my husband, and I have my 10-year green card, but and I left him, and I got restraining order. But I want to know, because I'm now here, a little over 2 years. I know that I can apply for citizenship after 3 years. So if I have restraining order,
having the restraining order doesn't make you eligible now to file for your citizenship. You can only file for your citizenship after 3 years if you remain in a bona fide marriage with your spouse, or if you obtained your green card as the victim of violence or extreme emotional abuse. It sounds like to me that you obtained your green card just through a regular bona fide marriage, and then there was violence in the relationship that you required a restraining order. That doesn't entitle you to file your citizenship after 3 years. You would have to wait for the 5, unfortunately.
what if in the restraining order, in my restraining order, I said that the violence has been going on since I entered U.S.?
Unfortunately, that's very sad what happened, but that doesn't make it, under the law, make you eligible for citizenship after 3 years.
And then, I have 10-year green card. Do I eligible for FAWA?
At this point, no.
And then really quickly, I was arrested before for felony assault, harassment, but the case was dropped. If I wait 5 years, will they look deep into the report, or will they just be dismissed and continue?
If it's more than 5 years from the time of the arrest and dismissal, all they're going to do is ask for a disposition. You were arrested, case dismissed, end of story.
So recently the case was dismissed. So I have to wait 5 years after?
Well, you can file at the 5-year mark, but they're going to ask for more information. But you're allowed to have a bad day, and the case was ultimately dismissed. So I think you'll still be eligible to become a citizen.
Okay. Do I have to, at the 5-year, prove bona fide marriage or no?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go to Eddie in Detroit, Michigan. Eddie.
Hey, Brad. How are you, sir?
Hi. How are you?
Good. I got a question about withholding removal. Is anything we can do about it, or any law passes yet, or?
I mean, you could always try to reopen your case if you become eligible for a green card, but nothing has passed that in the last 10 years that would make any.
If this amnesty pass, you think I'll be able to get them through the amnesty, though?
Maybe we'll see what the final bill is.
One will know about the amnesty another month.
Maybe at the end of the month, maybe in 6 months, maybe 9 months, maybe 9 years. Hopefully, I would say I would say if I had to really take a guess, probably towards the end of the summer. and into September.
So if I reopen my case, can I lose what I have?
Can you lose what you have? They're not going to reopen your case unless you're eligible for a green card. You don't just go. You don't. In other words, you just don't go reopen your case because you feel like it. You reopen your case because you're eligible, statutorily eligible for a green card. That's why you would do it.
What about my employment? My employment authorization is going to expire in a couple of months, and
so renew it.
How we renew it? All the offices are closed. Usually they call me, they set me up, because I'm supposed to go turn myself in every year. Now this year nobody called me. Last year.
You can still file an I-765.
What was the number?
I-765. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your help, sir. Have a good day.
Let's go to Renee in Trinidad. Renee.
Yeah, hi, Brad.
Hi, how are you?
Can you hear me?
Yep. What's going on?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Good. What's going on?
Hi. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Okay, so my situation is that I went to the States legally on a student visa. I overstayed my visa, and I stayed in the States for over 28 years.
Okay.
I had to leave in late 2017 because my mom passed away. And so I want to know two things. Number one, how can I get back into the States? Because I really have no life in Trinidad at all. I have no family or anybody. My whole life is in the States.
What family do you have in America?
I have a sister who's a permanent resident, and she lives in Ohio, though. So I want to know.
That's the only person?
Yeah, that has
when you have children in America?
No.
Okay.
No.
You boyfriend? Fiance? Ex. All right.
Ex.
Do you have a job that's willing to sponsor you?
Not currently, but I did work and I paid taxes over the time that I was there.
I don't believe they're going to give you a visa to come back for two reasons. One, because of COVID. Two, because you overstayed on your visa 28 years. They're not going to give you another
you know
visa.
what? I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Can you just repeat that really quick for me, please?
Yeah, I said they're not going to give you a visa to come back to the United States for two reasons. One, because of COVID. Two, because you overstayed a visa for 28 years. So they're not going to give you a new visa to come back. So you have to start thinking, how do I get a green card? Now, if you left the United States at the end of 2017, you overstayed on a student visa, you most likely, based on what the information you gave me, most likely do not have a 3 or a 10-year bar. So you can apply directly for a green card if you find a way to become eligible for one. You have no family to sponsor you, but if you fall in love with an American, they can come down and marry you or do a fiancé visa, or you can get sponsored in a job. That would be the two things that popped to my mind right now.
Those are the two things. So then the another alternative of getting a waiver towards inadmissibility, because you're saying that
you don't need a waiver for inadmissibility because you are on a student visa. You most likely had duration of status on your student visa, and Trump changed the laws as it relates to student visas in August 2017, which means starting August 2017, you had 180 days to leave the country. 180 days was well into 2018. You left in 2017. So based on the information you told me, you don't have a trigger. That triggers the 3 and 10-year bar.
But you did get the part that I stayed for over 27 years, right? In the States.
Right, because prior to Trump changing the rules, people who overstayed on their student visas, you told me student visa does not have a 3 or 10-year bar if they were in duration of, if they had DS on their I-94, which is how which you did. The laws changed August 2017, and then you had 180 days to leave, and you left within that 180 days. So based on what you told me, you don't have a 3 or 10-year bar. You do need to come and get a green card and figure out how to get a green card.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you so much, Brad. You've been a great help.
Okay,
thank you.
Let's go to Michael in San Diego. Michael. Michael, how are you?
Yeah, my name is Michael. Yeah, I have two questions for you real quick. How are you doing today?
Very good, thank you. I assume that's not one of them.
Please, my marriage is over 2 years. I went for an interview sometimes last year.
Right.
And this is 1 year already for my interview for I-145.
Right.
I have not seen anything from them, no email. I've been trying to track it. Nothing changed.
Where was your interview? Out in California?
Yeah, in California.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, where you from? Where you from, Michael?
I'm from Nigeria, though.
Okay. And was there any issues at the time of the interview or any skeletons in your closet? You know what I mean by skeletons? Any problems with your case?
But I don't know. But they got us separated. But in coming out, I went with my lawyer. But in coming out, my lawyer told me my wife answered 9 over 10 of what I answered. And that everything is pretty good. That was what my lawyer told me. I know I answered everything good.
Generally, if it's been a year and they haven't given you an answer yet, most likely they're investigating the bona fides of your marriage. And depending on how they do things out in San Diego, California, either they'll call you in for another interview and give you a Stokes interview and separate you again, or perhaps issue what's called a notice of intent to deny, giving you reasons why they don't believe it's a real marriage, and then you would have to respond to it. If it's more than a year since your interview and you haven't heard anything, the way to move things along is to do something called a pre-litigation mandamus or a mandamus. I call it a pre-litigation mandamus. It's a made-up word here at Spar and Bernstein. Everyone calls it differently. It's where you basically threaten a mandamus, and usually without actually filing it, because then we save you a lot of money from going into federal court. And they usually either will do one of 3 things: either approve your case, send out annoyed, or schedule you for an interview pretty fast because they don't want to get sued.
Okay, I think, and secondly, my wife just filed for my kids because we don't hear anything from them, and one of my kids is getting older and she's going to university very soon. So my wife just filed a petition for my kids.
Right.
Not quite long. They send for their biometrics. My question is, before I ask them questions, or before I call them, or before I do all these things, should I wait for them to answer my kids first, or it doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters. You're in a real marriage with your wife. Let's finish the case.
Okay.
All right. Because your kid, they're not gonna approve your kid anyway until you get through.
Okay.
All right.
So the best thing is I should try and contact them, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, or do the pre-litigation mandamus or the mandamus. Speak to your lawyer.
Okay,
about that.
Can you put me on through for consultation because I'd like to use it, please?
Hold on one second. Let's go to Mishu in Queens. Mishu.
Hi, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. Actually, I have one question. I came in B1, B2 visa in 2016, and within 6 months, I applied for asylum in the month of January in 2017.
Yep.
But still, my case is pending. Like is in immigration, like it's not go through the immigration court yet because I have 2.
Have you been interviewed? Have you been interviewed?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Bangladesh, but my religion is Hindu. But I traveled 2 times before coming here, and I go back, and finally I cannot stay over there some reasons, so I have to move that country because my life risks, because my family is living over there. But I'm single.
So let me make this suggestion to you if you want. We can review your asylum case. If we believe that you have a valid bona fide asylum claim, we would do what I was just talking to the caller before, pre-litigation mandamus or mandamus, and force them to interview you. Let's move it along.
Okay. So, because, I'm really scared because there is almost 4 years, I never got an interview, any single interview.
Well, it's not unusual given the fact that they do last in, first out, meaning the people who filed the longest are waiting the longest.
So can I get any benefit from new amnesty Biden rules? Like what do you think?
Well, there's no new Biden rules to make this go faster, but there's something called a pre-litigation mandamus or a mandamus to make it go faster.
So any advice me should I contact the immigration?
I advise you to do a pre-litigation or mandamus, assuming you have a bona fide marriage. A bona fide asylum case. So hold on one second. Let's go to Sammy in New York. Sammy. Sammy.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
What's going on?
I have 0 questions. So, like we sent the form I-130 6 weeks ago, and we didn't get any receipt and anything. And after we sent that, we find out the service office, they did a lot of mistakes. They put me as a petitioner, and they put my wife as a beneficiary. So I think at the end they're going to send it back. And once I called them, they said they didn't have it. They didn't have my application yet.
Well, how do you know that they made mistakes if they don't have your application? That makes no sense what you're saying to me.
Sorry?
How do they know they made all these mistakes and then
they don't know yet.
What did you receive that you believe that they've screwed up or made all these mistakes?
No, but when I ask them to tell them that there is a mistake, there is a big mistake.
In other words, what you're saying to me is that you filed something and you believe you made mistakes on the form, but you haven't heard back from immigration yet.
Oh, so after we sent that, we had a copy, and we just looked through the copy, and then we saw the mistake.
Did they cash your check?
No, they didn't yet.
All right, wait for them to cash your check, and then they'll send you. They'll do one of two things: either they're going to return everything to you and say you have too many mistakes, or they will accept it, send you back a new form, and say fill out the form right.
Okay, so can I? They told me today that I can cancel the money order.
No, don't do that, because then they're gonna. If they accept your case, that's terrible advice. Because if they accept your case and the money order bounces, then immigration's going to send you a bill for the filing fee plus bank charges, and you got a bad rap at immigration for bouncing checks. You don't want to do that.
Okay, so now what I have to do?
Right, so what you have to do again is wait for them to cash the check or return everything. It'll happen very soon, one way or the other. If they cash the check, most likely what will happen is they will send you a form and say, we've accepted your case, fill it out properly. Or they just may return everything to you and say, you've screwed it up so royally, we're not accepting it. Then you deal with it one way or the other. But you don't cancel a check and just say, screw it, because the immigration's going to take your filing fee, cash it, get a bounce check, and now you're going to have a problem. So again, good example of never listen to the 1-800 people or whoever's telling you. If you called up USCIS and they said cancel the money order, that's terrible. And if your friend told you that, that's even worse, because they don't know what they're talking about. Just wait a few more weeks, okay? You screwed up. This is the penalty. You got to wait a few more weeks to see what happens. All right?
Okay, so now I wait until they say something.
Correct.
Okay.
All right?
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, so that is our meat and potatoes. But in the meantime, if you did not get an opportunity to get your immigration questions asked and answered, you can always leave your comments in our social media section. I'll be answering them in social media check-in. Or you can follow me at Real Brad Bernstein on Instagram. If you follow me at Real Brad Bernstein on Instagram, you can like a picture if you want to. You don't have to. But certainly what you can do is send me a private DM, and I will try to answer your question as best as I can. And as I always say, if you can't handle 2 hours of Brad Show Live, but you can handle 2 minutes of Brad, Yo-Yo, and Vanessa, best way to check us out is on Instagram at Brad Show Live for the best 2 minutes snippets of our best content. And Jonathan and Vanessa.
Yes, you guys can follow me at Jonathan Elias TV on Instagram.
And you guys can find me at Vanessa.Contreras TV.
And of course, later in the show, I will be speaking with hero doctor Mona Hanna-Attisha, the Detroit pediatrician who helped expose the Flint, Michigan water lead poisoning crisis and cover-up.
And before we get into social media check-in, in today's Spar and Bernstein close-up partner and immigration attorney Shannon Laguerre-Mengret explains how domestic violence is defined and how the Violence Against Women Act, which is VAWA, can help immigrants in abusive relationships.
So domestic violence is defined as basically a practice and pattern of abuse. 4.8 million women are deemed to suffer intimate partner violence. 1 in 10 men will experience abuse. You know, it can be emotional, it can be verbal. So basically, it's used by another partner to kind of control another partner. In the cases that we have at Spar and Bernstein, it can be spouses who are cursing at their spouse. They can be yelling at their spouse. They can also be threatening deportation. That's also deemed to be abuse. And so there's just a wide range of ways to be able to control another partner. It's of course physical, there's also sexual, there's emotional, there's verbal. It's a wide range of practice and pattern of abuse towards another person and trying to basically control them.
All right, let's just do something we like to call social media check-in. Let's check in with what people are asking on social media. Yo-Yo and Vanessa.
All right, first one comes from a VIP Brad Squad member. Remember, if you ever want to put in your questions anytime throughout the day, anytime during the weekend, and try and get your question answered before anybody does during social media check-in, all you have to do is join the VIP page. It's so simple. All you have to do is go to Facebook, go in the search engine and put Brad Squad. You will see it's a group that you have to request to join, and we will add you in. All right? First one is from our VIP member, Oscar, saying, if I got an RFE for my I-130 application saying I need to provide more evidence to prove that my spouse and I are ready to establish a life together here in America, what is USCIS asking me for in regard for proof?
Proof that you're in a real relationship with them. So pictures together, financial documentation together. If you're in another country, your text messages, your emails, proof of telephones, proof that your spouse is maybe supporting you or vice versa, or your social media, or your spouse is flying to visit you. Things that show you're in a real relationship.
Moesha Smith on Facebook, also a Brad Squad VIP member. My friend is a U.S. citizen. She has turned 21 and wants to file for her mom, who is also living in the U.S. How long would that process take?
About a year.
Nenny Wrecker, another VIP Squad member. If I have my EAD and I'm working, can my income be combined with my spouse's to meet the affidavit of support income requirement?
Not unless you've been working legally for the last 10 years. So you would need a second affidavit of support from somebody else.
Enger Ben Oniyoku, also a Facebook Brad Squad VIP member. How long does it take to get an interview after a case is documentarily qualified for immediate relatives in Nigeria?
The good question. Right now, there's such a backlog. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes 6 weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a year.
Nora Jagdio, another VIP member, asking if I overstayed on the F1 visa, what can I do now that I'm in the U.S. out of status?
Well, just like anybody else, you're undocumented. We got to figure out a way that you become eligible for a green card.
Bow Now on Facebook. If my wife filed the I-130 for me in May of 2020 with my asylum case was pending, can we have the I-130 application expedited for humanitarian reasons?
Unlikely.
Charles M. on YouTube. I'm an asylum seeker and have been here for 6 years. My case is still pending. I've been employed for 5 years. I pay my taxes and have no criminal records. If the new immigration bill passes, what will I be eligible for? Lawful prospective immigrant status or a green card?
Lawful prospective immigrant status.
Sugar K on YouTube, who also sent us $5. I got married in July of 2020.
I just want you to know, but she said $5. She deserves to get her question asked, right? I better give her a good answer for the $5, right?
Right.
Right. Make it good, Brad.
Yes. Cheers for a cup of coffee. Thank you very much.
So I got married in July of 2020. My husband is currently trying to adjust his status. I'm on Section 8. Should I add him to the housing?
No, actually being on Section 8 is a double negative. It actually makes your case for him perhaps have a problem with the poverty guidelines.
Ogadel on YouTube, what is going to happen to non-felons currently in the deportation process if Biden's immigration bill passes?
Most likely you would be spared depending on what your criminal records are, because they're going to say you are going to be eligible to have 2 petty offenses, which are mostly misdemeanors. So assuming you have 2 petty offenses, then that would not make you a deportable alien.
Tariq Khan on YouTube, if my asylum case is currently pending in court, am I eligible for Biden's amnesty?
Yes, as it's currently written.
Okay, O. Larkin, this is sent in as an email in regards to Biden's new bill that may or not pass. What does it say about people already placed in deportation, but with no felonies? Every lawyer is talking about DACA and amnesty, but I haven't heard anything regarding what will happen to people who were placed in deportation under the Trump administration.
You'd be eligible for the amnesty.
Denise Malcolm on Instagram, if both my children are here in the U.S. on expired visas, can I file for them?
Yes.
Sam Adiadir on YouTube, is there any specific mention of waivers for false claims in Biden's proposed immigration bill?
False claims to U.S. citizenship, there is no waivers for that, and nothing new.
Betty Lee Gordon on YouTube, will the F2A category be included in the immediate relatives category under the Biden administration?
As it is written, yes, but we got to see if it passes.
Ann Rose on Facebook, is it a problem if I filed the I-485 but I did not submit joint taxes with my husband?
It's a problem if you were married during the time that you were not filing joint tax returns, because if you're not filing a joint tax return, you're showing you don't have a joint economic relationship. You're not responsible for the debts of the marriage, and as a result, that would indicate to immigration that it's not a bona fide marriage.
Atif Yusuf on YouTube, me and my family are being tortured and abused. Can I apply for a humanitarian parole? My sister is in the U.S. ready to sponsor me.
I mean, you could always try, but I doubt you would have to apply for some sort of refugee status. That's what I would be doing.
Edward Nihal on YouTube, what happens to me if I overstayed on my visitor's visa?
You're undocumented.
Kayla Drake's on Facebook, how can I become a permanent resident in the U.S.?
By magic. Magic. Yo-yo.
Sandra Leslie on Facebook.
I mean, it's like a book that's 5,000 pages long on how to become a permanent resident.
Yes.
Okay. Need a little more information on that one. So magic.
Cool.
For right now.
Sandra Leslie on Facebook. If I visit my U.S. citizen boyfriend in America and we marry within 90 days, can I stay?
Your permanent resident boyfriend and you marry within 90 days, you committed a misrepresentation.
U.S. citizen boyfriend.
You still committed a misrepresentation. You can't come for visiting for purposes of marrying. If you get married after 90 days, you did not come to visit for purposes of marrying.
Brian on YouTube, if my request to expedite my case was denied, will they delay my case now even further?
No, not necessarily.
Charles Williams on YouTube, I'm Liberian and entered the U.S. in 2015. I was rejected for a LRIF under the Trump administration. But since President Biden just passed the TPS, can I now benefit from these programs?
Yes.
Susie Diamond on Instagram, if my son filed for me in 2018 and I received my green card in February of 2020, can I file for my citizenship?
No, you got to wait till December 2024.
Moses Paris on Facebook, can someone who was granted withholding of removal instead of asylum due to missing the 1-year filing deadline be eligible to file a motion to reopen their asylum if Biden's new immigration law passes?
Presumably yes, because that deadline won't exist anymore.
Kareen from Instagram, I filed my AOS in April. I just received my work permit and social security number, but my married name wasn't on them. When the form was filled out, it was my maiden name. Can I change it to my married name?
After you get your green card, change it. Right now, that would screw up because your social security card wouldn't match your work permit because you can't change the work permit without submitting it back to immigration, and then it's going to be a 9-10 month wait. So just stay in your maiden name for right now. It's not the end of the world. It's a modern world anyway, so you don't have to necessarily take your spouse's married name. After you get your green card, it'll be a lot easier. Do it then.
Princess Rose on Facebook, how can I respond to USCIS with further evidence if my RFE has been terminated?
You don't. You would have to refile again.
Fatini Park on YouTube, if I completed my biometrics for a prior application which was denied and I've since reapplied, will USCIS use my old biometrics or will I have to redo them?
Most likely they'll use the old one.
LaKitty on YouTube, if I recently applied for VAWA based on the I-485 application, what is my current immigration status right now?
Pending VAWA or pending adjustment. All right, 3 more.
Janelson Burgos on Twitter, if the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021 is approved in its entirety and I'm granted legal temporary status, could I then join the military and attain citizenship faster that way?
Presumably yes, but we'll have to see the specifics.
Annette Graham on Facebook, if my friend is married to an American citizen, can she file for his sister?
Your friend married an American citizen, can he file for the sister? That would be the sister-in-law? No.
It says if my friend is married to an American citizen, yeah, so like the wife, friend, can she file for his sister? So no.
No.
And last one comes from Brittany XD on Instagram. How can I bring my grandmother to live with me here in the U.S.?
Unfortunately, there's no grandkid filing for grandmother application. Your mom or dad can file for grandma, but you can't. So in honor of the first day of Women's History Month, we thought we would showcase Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, the Detroit pediatrician who helped expose the Flint, Michigan water crisis in 2015. Dr. Mona joined me to discuss her fight to expose the crisis, which she details in her memoir, What the Eyes Don't See, a story of crisis, hope, and resistance in an American city, and how her Iraqi family's immigrant roots influenced her career and her passion for social justice. Let's watch. Dr. Mona Hanna-Attisha, known as Dr. Mona, she is the daughter of Iraqi immigrants living in Detroit. She's a pediatrician. She has helped expose the Flint water crisis in 2015. Her memoir, released June 2018, What the Eyes Don't See, a story of crisis, hope, and resistance in an American city, has landed on the 2018 Oprah Winfrey's list of the top books to read this summer. In 2016, she was named one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world. Dr. Mona is with me today to discuss how her family's immigrant roots and activist background influenced her career as a doctor and scientist and inspired her in pursuit of justice and exposing the Flint water disaster. So how are you? Welcome, and appreciate you coming on and your time. Thank you very much.
Brad, it's great to be with you. Thank you.
So Dr. Mona, you are the director of the Michigan State University Children's Hospital Pediatric Public Health Initiative. You mitigated the impact of the Flint water crisis. You're a professor of pediatrics at Michigan State University. How did you get involved in this whole Flint water crisis? What happened?
So for about 17 months, Flint had switched their water source to the Flint River without treating it properly. It was missing corrosion control. Lots of complaints about the water, but I assumed everything was okay.
What year was this?
April 2014.
They switched the water supply. And they say everything's good.
Everything's good for 17 months, despite residents' complaints. They knew something was wrong. There was color, odor, taste issues. But, I was going along my busy work as a pediatrician, and I was believing what the government said. I mean, why wouldn't you? It's America.
Are you a resident of Flint? You have patients from Flint? Are you near Flint?
Yeah, so we're actually in Flint right now. Flint. I don't live in Flint, but I work in Flint. And the patients I care for live in Flint. And they were coming to me asking me if the water was okay. And how could the water not be okay? It's, who doesn't assume that when you turn on your tap, your water is not okay?
Who would they complain to?
Everybody, every level of government, the city, the state, federal government, including the EPA. Flint had lost democracy. We were under state-appointed emergency management, and the only focus was austerity to save money. So the voices of the citizens of Flint were being dismissed and denied throughout the story.
Whose ultimate decision was that?
Yeah, it went from the Great Lakes, which we had been getting for half a century.
It's a freshwater source?
And the best, highest quality water source. And it was switched to the Flint River without proper treatment. And that decision was made by the emergency managers who report to the governor. So this was a state-driven decision.
Why was the Flint River being polluted by industry, or is it just a contaminated river just by nature?
That's a great question. So the Flint River has a history of legacy pollution. It's actually caught on fire twice. But the river was not the problem. The problem was the water was not treated with corrosion control, an important ingredient. Without that treatment, the water was about 19 times more corrosive. It ate up our pipes. Lead from our pipes went into our drinking water and into the bodies of our children.
What was the savings that they got from switching the water source?
Maybe about $30 million to switch from the Great Lakes to the Flint River. However, it only would have cost $80 to $100 a day to add this proper treatment chemical that was not added. And that was not added, and the pump to install that treatment chemical was never installed. So there was really never even an intention to treat this water properly.
So they were complaining that there was a smell to the water?
There were citywide complaints about odor, quality, taste. Bacteria was in the water. Chlorine was added, which irritated people's skin and eyes. Lots and lots of issues. Parents coming in with vague complaints about children. But for 17 months, everybody was being reassured. Even when General Motors, which was born in Flint, after just a few months of the water switch, noticed that their engine parts were corroding from this water source, and they got a bypass to go back to the Great Lakes, but the people of Flint were literally told to relax.
What were they saying to try to convince the public that this was safe water?
That the water is testing fine, that it meets compliance guidelines. Literally, one government spokesperson said that you can relax, that if you're worried about lead, you should just relax. So lots of reassurances about all the multiple complaints that were coming in about this water.
So when did you start trying to connect the dots, saying, wait a second, something is wrong?
My eyes were opened when a girlfriend of mine, high school girlfriend, who happens to be a drinking water expert, was at my home and shared what she knew, which was that the water was not being treated with corrosion control, and thus we would have lead in the water. And from that moment on, I began this almost quest to uncover what was happening to our children.
What does lead do to children? What does lead do to adults?
Great question. And that's when my life changed, when I heard the word lead. Because as a pediatrician, we know what lead does. It is a poison. It's an irreversible neurotoxin with no safe level. It impacts children's cognition, dropping IQ levels, impacts their behavior. It alters their entire life course trajectory. We're never supposed to expose them to lead, because really we are only, when we detect it in a child, it just tells us there's an environmental problem.
What did you do at that point? Where did you go about trying to find this proof?
When I heard this, I knew I needed proof. I needed the population level data, and I wasn't getting that. Nobody was giving it to me at the county and state level. So I decided to do my own research with our hospital records to see what was happening to the lead levels of our children. So Mark Edwards, a scientist from Virginia, had come and done water testing of all of Flint, working hand in hand with the people of Flint, and had scientifically proven there was lead in the water. It's like, this guy is a genius, one of the world's experts in lead and water. And he was also being attacked. The book really goes through that fast-paced research of what we discovered. And what we discovered was an increase in the percentage of children's lead levels after the water switch. And I walked out of my clinic and I stepped into a press conference and shared that research. And that is not something that doctors do. But at this point, we had no other choice. I had no other choice. As a physician, I literally took an oath to protect children. I stood up and said I would be the voice of children and be their protector and healer. And we did. And just like everybody else in the story, we were also attacked. My science was attacked. My credibility was attacked. And the facts and the science were dismissed. They said I was splicing and dicing numbers, that I was an unfortunate researcher, that I was causing hysteria, and that their numbers, the state's big data, was not consistent with my data.
Did you ever doubt your research?
The book goes through those incredible, powerful emotions because for a moment I felt I was wrong and I was scared and I was sick and there was a knot in my stomach that would not go away. When the entire state tells you you're wrong, it's hard not to believe them. But that lasted a few moments, and ultimately the kids put me back in this fight because I was fighting for their future, for the lives that were growing inside them and their entire potential. And they got me back, and they got me back with punching bags on.
How did you eventually convince the authorities that you were correct, or did you first convince the public you were correct, and then the authorities had to come around? Which way was it?
Yeah, so when we had our press conference that shared this data, the public finally breathed a sigh of relief because they knew something was wrong, but they didn't know what. It was a validation of their concerns, so they were obviously on board and had been on board. And then after a few weeks, finally the state went back, looked at their data, and conceded and said, you know, our data are consistent with your data. There is a lead problem. So ultimately, it was our science that spoke truth to power.
How long was it from the time that you exposed this in your press conference to the time that the state and the EPA said, you're right, Dr. Mona?
It was a matter of a couple weeks.
And then at that point, what did you do? What did the state do to try to rectify this?
So within a few weeks after that, we went back to Great Lakes water. And from that very moment of recognizing that we had this population-wide exposure, my focus went to the hope. What was happening in the water was threatening the tomorrows of all of our children. And from that moment on, my focus went to the preserving the tomorrows of those kids.
Now, they're still having problems today because those pipes that the bad water from Flint River was going through are still contaminated. So even though you have fresh water coming from the Great Lakes, in 2018, 4.5 years after you exposed this, nobody can drink the water in Flint still.
You're right. So the 18 months that we were on corrosive, untreated water ate up our pipes. So we are replacing those lead pipes. When we complete that, we'll only be the third city in the country that's done that. But that takes time. And while that's happening, people need to continue taking precautions.
Now, besides lead, was there any other poisoning from this water source?
Yeah, lead is only a small part of the story. We also had one of the largest outbreaks of Legionnaire's disease. Adults, especially elderly, contracted pneumonia and died. At least 12 confirmed deaths from Legionnaire's disease and an overall uptick in pneumonia mortality. Because of that, state officials are actually charged with negligent homicide because of those deaths.
They killed people and told people it was safe to drink this water, and it wasn't. So did you testify before Congress about this?
Absolutely. They had several hearings. I was called to testify twice at the U.S. Congress as well as at the state level.
Did Congress do anything, or was it all talk?
After a year and a half of advocacy, Congress finally passed a Flint bill in December of 2016 to help with our pipe replacement and to fund our registry. But that is just a down payment. We need long-term resources.
So who's supplying the water now to Flint? You still can't drink it out of the pipes.
No, the state ended bottled water supply, but there is a supply of filters for the next 2 years.
Why would the state end it? They caused this problem.
They said that our water is testing better and that they no longer have to supply it. But it should have continued. Our water is testing better, but because of the infrastructure work, there's still risks.
Tell us about your book a little bit and where you can find it. And then I want to find out a little bit about your background and your history.
Sure. So the book is available everywhere. Like you mentioned, it's on Oprah's summer reading list. This book, like I mentioned earlier, is so much more than just about Flint. You know, it is ultimately about people, places, and problems all over that we choose not to see. And it is about our obligation as human beings, our civic responsibility to open our eyes and to care for these populations and to be aware of these injustices. It is also, like you alluded to, it's an immigrant story. And I don't think that part of this book would have been as big if it wasn't for the last election. I'm a first-generation immigrant. We came to this country when I was 4, very much for freedom, for opportunity, for democracy, for that American dream. And that was realized for me and my family. Lady Liberty opened her arms for me and my family, and that is not happening today.
I would say there's a direct correlation between what happened to the children in Flint and what's happening to children on the border right now in terms of their emotional growth and their emotional stability. You want to talk a little bit about that? What happens to children in stressful situations and what stresses children and how that affects them growing up? Because it was a stressful situation knowing you can't drink water or you may get sick, and it's a stressful situation being separated from your family.
So the same mechanism that is happening for the children at the border is what's happening in Flint. We call this toxic stress. This is probably the most important concept right now in pediatrics and public health. It is the recognition of early trauma, early life trauma, on what happens to the lifelong development of children. It's the same thing as what's going on the border as in Flint. Children are rattled with so many toxic stresses, from poverty, violence, separation of parents, incarcerated parents, lead poisoned water. All of these are toxicities.
How are these kids, what's the scientific evidence that how are they going to function as adults?
Yeah, so the treatment is being buffered by a supportive caregiver in your lives. So reunification is number one. They need supportive parents, caregivers to buffer these toxicities. If they are not properly treated, we know that they will then engage in, they'll have developmental delays, things like bedwetting, anxiety issues, depression issues, mental health issues, increased risk-taking behaviors, substance abuse, higher likelihood of chronic diseases, and actually a decreased mortality. Years will be cut off of their lives if this is not treated properly.
You were born in England. You're from Iraqi descent. You are Chaldean. For those who maybe you know more about your culture than me, I'll tell you what I know. You are Christian Catholics, but of Arab Iraqi descent. How did your family come to America?
Yeah, so I was born in England. My father was completing his PhD. The plan was to go back to Baghdad. That's where home is. That's where family is. Arabic was my first language. However, that's when Saddam Hussein was rising in power. And very quickly, we saw his tyranny, his fascism. And my parents knew that they could not go back home with two small children. So we immigrated to the States. My father then did a postdoc. It was an education visa initially, continuing his research in metallurgical engineering. And then he eventually got a job with General Motors, and we settled in Michigan for 30 plus years.
How old are your children right now?
They're 9 and 12.
Your children were 4 or 5 years old when you were doing this, and you're still doing it to this day. What do you teach your children about democracy, about standing up for your rights, about government transparency? How do you teach your children about this and right from wrong?
The lens that I see the world as an immigrant is somebody who is every day grateful to be in this country. Every day I wake up lucky to be in America. But it is also a lens that acutely knows what injustice is and what people in power can do to vulnerable populations and how important it is to be in a democratically free society. And so those are the lessons that I teach my children. And to no matter where you are, you work for justice. It's being part of this borderless cause. It's not about race, religion, or country. It is about service and justice.
What is your individual American dream? Have you reached it? And what is your societal American dream?
I have absolutely been blessed and privileged to achieve that American dream. That was realized for me and my family. But for the kids that I take care of here in Flint, they wake up to a nightmare. And that is not right. There are absolutely two Americas. There are some American dreams that are impossible for some children in certain zip codes. And I want to see a world where everybody wakes up to that same opportunity to achieve that American dream.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Brad. It's great to be with you.
So in the aftermath of the crisis and the cover-up that Dr. Mona exposed, Michigan agreed last year to a $600 million deal to compensate residents whose health was damaged by the lead-tainted water. As of this January, former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder, 8 former state officials, all facing criminal charges ranging from willful neglect of duty to involuntary manslaughter. The governor of Michigan, the former governor, facing criminal charges as a result of all of this. The Flint water crisis left 12 people dead, sickened at least 80 children, probably a lot more we don't even know, and so many more, hundreds more, facing long-term health effects. All right, social media speed round. You ready to do it, guys?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, 50 seconds. Everyone knows the rules. I got to answer 9 questions or blow up. That's not very fair, but okay, let's do it.
All right. Is Trump's family ban revoked?
Is what ban what?
Is Trump's family ban revoked?
Yes.
Would Biden's amnesty protect J1 overstays?
Yes.
Can I file for asylum right now?
Yes.
Can a DACA recipient enlist in the military?
Yes.
How long does it take to get an orphan petition approved?
About a year.
Can I travel to my home country with an approved I-131 and pending VAWA?
Yes.
How long does it take to get an EAD card?
About 7 months.
Has Biden lifted the travel ban on Muslim countries?
Yes.
Can I use my maiden name when being petitioned for my child, by my child?
Absolutely.
Done.
Wow, all yes and no questions. You made it very easy for me today. No, explain something in 8 parts. We did it with time to spare, and I didn't even understand the first question. I'm like, what? What? What'd you say? And we were calm. We didn't panic. Everybody manned their stations. We went into battle and we did it.
Absolutely. I feel good.
I feel very good. All right. Maybe what should happen instead of blowing up, Julian whispered in my ear. He said, instead of blowing up, would you rather have a bear pop up and bite your ass? If you don't, I said, no. I'd rather just blow up than have. Sure. Yeah, I said, no, that's not a good idea. I don't want a bear to bite my ass and come up and bite me. That's worse.
So you were thinking about bringing a bear to the studio.
Yes, that's what Julian's idea was. I said, no, we'll just continue to blow up.
Julian with his crazy ideas.
Yes. All right, comments of the day. What do we got?
All right, our first comment of the day comes from Marcia McCullough saying, thanks, Uncle Brad. We could not have done all our immigration stuff without you. All your information is really appreciated.
Oh, very nice. Thank you.
Okay, next one. Nogozi Njoku saying, I'm so pleased to be on this platform having an insight of happenings in the U.S.
Oh, very good. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, our third comment of the day comes from AYODEJI saying, you can never be a novice in immigration issues when you are hooked to Brad show. The explanations to every question are simple, articulate, and explicit. Bravo to the Brad.
Ah, very nice. Thank you very much. I try. Yes.
Okay, and from one of our VIPs, Sasha Ford, my American dream is to fulfill my educational goals so that I will be able to work in an environment where I can help my fellow immigrants to fulfill their purpose. Wow, love that, Sasha.
I like that too. You know what? We got to ask people what their American dreams are moving forward. We'll find out more American dreams tomorrow from the squad. But in the meantime, everybody have a great evening. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back around the same time, same place tomorrow. See you then. So, Sam, as part of the production, we have to say this disclaimer at the end of the show. Do you mind reading it for me?
Okay, but Brad, I have to do everything around here. It's bad enough I've got to remember everything that happened on the episode from the previous day.
Forget it. I'll do it. The proceeding was information only and not specific legal advice. Consult an attorney about your individual situation. Prior successful results do not guarantee a similar outcome in the future. To make an appointment with the Spar and Bernstein law firm located at 225 Broadway in New York City, call 1-800-529-5465. That's 1-800-529-5465. Easy to remember, 1-800-LAWLINK. That's 1-800-LAWLINK. Once again, make a call to 1-800-529-5465. And of course, link up with the law offices of Spar and Bernstein, located at 225 Broadway on the 5th floor. If I were you out there, make the call, make the link, make the connection, make it Spar and Bernstein. 1-800-LAWLINK. That's 1-800-529-5465. And now, conveniently located in Hartford, Connecticut on 1 Congress Street. Visit us in Connecticut or in New York at 225 Broadway. That's 1-800-529-5465. 1-800-LAWLINK. 1-800-529-5465.